Richard, I know that you do a lot of work on Indian states as well, and not just the national election. We've had two crucial state elections as well, where we've seen upsets. We've seen an upset in the state of Odisha with the end of an era, really, there as far as Naveen Patnaik is concerned as Chief Minister, and for the BJD making way for the BJP. And in Andhra Pradesh, it's the return of Chandrababu Naidu, the man who wooed foreign investors in a big way when he was Chief Minister, man who was on the forefront of digitization and adopting the digital revolution. So Richard, how would you see these state wins and these state changes?
With Andhra, we may see more of a whipsaw, right? Because the last time that the TDP ran the state, talking about redeveloping the capital, a lot of aggressive tendering on renewable energy, and a lot of that got shredded and torn up when the YSR Congress won the state. I suspect, that the Naidu government will go back to its wishes to want to try to rebuild this national capital. It's smart reform, sure, but at the same time, investors like stability, and this back and forth that you see is kind of dangerous. Similar in Odisha. I mean, quietly, Odisha undertook one of the most significant reforms, bar any organization in all of India, by reforming and privatizing the entire power grid, something they tried and failed 30 years before. But the Patnaik government had done it again, and actually it's been a raging success. So just kind of hoping that you've got some level of policy stability, which is something that investors certainly want, not just reform, but stability. But the other angle to it that I wanted to touch on, and one of the areas I think the Modi government with this week in hand is going to have a real problem with, most reform that has to happen in India is actually at the state level. And some of the work the Modi government had done on challenging states to do better and improving the business environment. Well, when you're in a coalition government and you're ranking states' business environment, what happens if Andhra, what happens if Bihar are at the bottom of the list? Some of those pressures that they felt, even when they didn't have a coalition, on actually challenging states to do better, I think those pressures are going to mount. So a lot of the reform work, I think, at the states have to do. The Delhi government's going to have, the central government's going to have less of a hand in pushing that. That's one reason I have to pause in terms of what we might see post-election.
Yes, but to be fair, all states at this point in time are trying to press ahead and draw in investors, both domestic as well as foreign investors, whether it is, the easy availability of land, all kinds of concessions. There is, in fact, almost a competition on between states on who they can woo and who they can bring onto their own shores. Mukesh, how are investors seeing that? As I said, you've got Tamil Nadu battling it out with Gujarat, Gujarat battling it out with Telangana, Telangana battling it out with Maharashtra, and so on and so forth. At the end of the day, investors benefit because you're going to probably get a much better deal with this competitive federalism underway.
No, absolutely, Shireen. The states have tasted the blood, and they know that if they want to draw investors, if they want to create jobs, if they want to grow their state economy, they have to compete. And we keep on hosting on a monthly basis more and more of state investment delegation coming to the United States. So I believe from a state perspective, anybody who comes in will have to work to draw investments internationally. And for them to draw investment, they have to compete with other states. That means you got to have a much more aggressive package offered to those investors. You got to have a much more transparent policy making. You have to have a much more reform agenda. So I think it's not just about India competing on a global basis. Now it's states competing on a global basis, and that reform agenda continues. And you'll see a much more aggressive stance as the state government take their position in a global order.